What's up? What is up? Hello everyone. Thank you for coming back to my channel. I am Bex, BX, and in this week's video, we're going to talk about how the heck I've been studying for finals. This video is not an advice video. It is not by any means me telling you how you should study in any academic setting, okay? So if you hear all of this stuff and then you do it too afterwards and you implement my studying habits into your studying habits and then you don't do well, do not blame me, do not sue me, do not come for me. I just wanted to share with y'all while I'm in the middle of it, because I think that if I were to share my studying habits or just this whole plan that I have masterfully come up with for studying for finals, if I had shared this video with y'all after finals and maybe like even after I got my grades back, I would have been really particular about what I chose to tell you all, because I would have tried to get rid of some of the stuff that didn't work and only tell you the things that I thought did work. And I don't feel like that's authentic to my channel. I literally tell you all that we are just here taking life, taking everything that we do one day at a time. And I say that because that's a philosophy, or I guess a way of life that I really want to continue implementing, and I really want to practice it, because I do struggle with taking life one day at a time. And so if I were to only share with y'all what I thought worked at the end of all of this, I don't think that that'd be authentic to taking life one day at a time, because me sharing with you guys while I'm in the middle of studying for finals everything that I'm doing right now and not even knowing if it's going to actually be successful or not, I think that's more authentic, that's more true to what this channel is about. I am not a channel that teaches law students how to do the whole law school thing. I give my experience. I tell you all what I found important, what I found valuable to me, and the things that I want to see for my life, and I share that with you all in the hopes that somebody else can resonate with that information and not necessarily act accordingly, but just have someone to relate to. If you are looking up to me, that's great, but just take everything that I say, with a grain of salt, because I am not the master of anything. I just feel like I had to put a disclaimer on that, because I think because especially my channel is now becoming so niche now, and so I know that there's a very particular type of person that watches these videos. I know that that type of person might look for particular information that will help them figure out what they should do next, and I think that it is important to take other people's experiences into consideration when you are trying to figure out what to do with your life. But I don't think that it is so important that you take everything that other people say and never listen to yourself and never think that anything that you come up with on your own is valid. That is my spiel. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and we will now actually begin the video on me talking about how the heck I'm studying for finals. To keep it succinct, the things that I've been doing at like a very just overall general level, I have been outlining, I have been taking practice exams, quizzes, which I think are different than practice exams because the quizzes are more centered on one specific topic than a whole practice essay, which will cover a wide variety or wide range of topics. And then lastly has been study groups. At large, that's basically how I've been studying for exams, and I got that plan or sort of those tools from 2Ls and 3Ls, from information that I've found on the internet, from other YouTubers that I watch that are older, and just blog posts and Instagram posts. I started with outlining because that was the one that you hear every law student talk about. Outlining, outlining, outlining. You gotta start outlining. And I'm like, what the heck are you guys talking about? What am I outlining? I will tell you this, before I came to law school, and really even going into the first month of law school, I was still confused as to what outlining meant until I actually saw a freaking outline, because I was like, I'm taking notes. Obviously I'm taking notes in class, so what more do I need to do beyond that? Outlining is just synthesizing your notes. It's basically like rewriting your notes, but trying to, just make it smaller, because your notes probably span over hundreds of pages, and these exams are open book for the most part. I don't know what other schools do, but most of my exams, if not all of them now, are open note, which means that I'm allowed to use my outlines or my notes for the exam. My professors have allowed me to use my notes. They've allowed me to use the textbooks. They've allowed me to use the supplemental books that kind of accompany those textbooks. Pretty much anything you can get your hands on that in regards to that material, besides being able to search on the internet. That being said, that is a lot of material that you will have to cipher through just to get the information that you need for the exam. No one's gonna do that. That's why people suggest that you outline, because you are not going to flip through hundreds of pages of your notes during an exam that is timed, so about 3.5 to 4 hours for one subject. That's timed. You're on a time crunch. You don't have the time to be flipping through all those notes. So you condense it into an outline to make it more digestible, make it easier for you to refer back to if you need to during your exam. So I'm showing you guys how I outlined. Being in this hybrid, online law school format is actually kind of strange, because you have the opportunity to write your notes or type your notes when maybe you used to write them before. Now you have the opportunity to type your notes and sort of refer to it in a different way, right? So you can type your notes and kind of refer to certain things instead of having to flip through pages. Command F, and you can just type in what it is that you need to find, and there it is, the page pops up right there. So it's made things a little bit different, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just know that it's different. Saving more trees though, okay, so it's definitely more environmentally friendly. Thank you, Rona. They do say that it scientifically helps you memorize things better if you write out your notes as opposed to typing your notes. So there are some advantages to writing, but for efficiency's sake, typing just seems to make a little bit more sense, especially under these circumstances. So all of my outlines are typed out, but I have some of them that are going to stay on my computer and some that are going to be printed out. And the reason for that is because my professors, some have us using this electronic blue book system, basically the system that we're going to use to take our exams online since we're doing it at home. And some of them will disable internet functions. They'll disable you from being able to switch between windows. So not even just to use internet, but to switch between your apps. So like Word and, say Excel or something like that. So you're really gonna have to only stay on your browser for the electronic blue book. That being that, if that's the case, I need to print out my notes. So for example, for civil procedure, my outline that you'll see is printed out, and I've put it in a binder dedicated just to civil procedure, and that's where I'll be putting all my outlines, my charts, my little cheat sheets, whatever it is that I need, it's gonna go into that binder, and that's what I will be referring to during the exam, because I'm not gonna use my textbook, because who in the heck has the time to be flipping through a 500-page textbook? I sure don't. For the classes that will allow me to, that we're still using the electronic system, but there are different versions of it, and you can allow the students to use different apps. And so for those classes, I will be keeping my outline on my computer. I'll dedicate a folder just to all the materials for that class, for that exam that I need, from the outline to the, to the cheat sheets, to rules, definitions, whatever it is that I need, I'll put it in that folder and use it to refer to during my exam. For those classes, it's really an it's honesty policy that you're not going to use the internet. So that is reasoning for the outlining, and then that's how I'm going to be using the outlines during the exam. Now, the way that I outline is very, very simple. Thanks to the societies that I'm a part of here, BULSA being one of them, I'm able to have access to outline banks, and basically 2Ls and 3Ls will compile all of their outlines from different students. Most of the time they make sure that these are from outlines from students who did well in those classes, so you're not just like, well, I'm gonna follow this outline, I have no idea how the student did. They make sure that they give you outlines from students who've done relatively well, and they provide, ones for the variety of teachers that teach that certain subject, and you kind of just get to choose from them. They've provided outlines to me, and I've taken a look at them and I've said, okay, some people write differently and some people use different language than what I would normally use, and I wanted to change that up. So what I did was basically just use the outline as a reference from a former student, so from a 2L or a 3L, and I used their outline as like the basis, and basically just made mine off of that. That was basically my outline outlining process. What I would do for concepts that I felt like, that students outlined, I felt like they didn't explain it well enough for me because I still needed to review that topic, I would refer back to my notes, which I type most of my notes except for one class, which I'll go about it. I don't know why I did that, but whatever. I would refer back to my notes, which I typed, which were very easy to find because I keep them all in Google Drive in certain folders per subject. And so I could basically just type in the concept in the search box on Google Drive and it'll take me straight to those notes that I took on whatever day I had that class. I'll review it and then add whatever I need to my version of the outline. And I'll also preface this by saying that I really needed to make sure that I was being efficient with my time because we are on a condensed schedule, right? So I'm taking all of my exams before Thanksgiving. I had to make sure that I was going to not only understand all of these concepts, but I was going to be able to review them and then assess myself on them all before Thanksgiving. So there's no time to really do everything from scratch. So I really started outlining in October, kind of in the beginning of October, and I kind of just figured I would start with the hardest one that I felt like I was gonna need the most time with, which was civil procedure, and then I started doing contracts and then doing torts, and then I have this class legislation and regulation, which you guys don't need to worry about because I don't know if everybody really is even gonna take that class. Basically finished by around November 1st. That was my goal, to finish all of my outlines. I think I finished almost all of them except for Civ Pro, which is funny because that was the first one that I started. That takes me into the next studying tool that I used in preparing for finals. So the next thing that I used in preparing for finals was practice exams. Practice exams, I will say, and I know I did say that this isn't going to be an advice thing, but I'm just going to say that this has been the most helpful thing for me in studying for finals. Taking your first practice exam is so scary because you're like, well, what if I don't know the answer? That's the point. And it's so funny because once you start taking them, you get so used to getting things wrong that you don't even care anymore. I got to a point where I was really just like, I'm so glad I took this because now I know. Now I'm going to have that ingrained in my brain, that mistake that I made, to not do it again. The way that some of my professors grade exams is, did you spot the issue? You get points for spotting the issue. You get points for stating what the rule is in regards to that issue. And again, don't worry about if you don't understand what any of this means. Do not worry about it at all because you will learn when you get to law school. Don't get lost in what I'm saying right now. Just, this is the process of like point allocation, right? So it's really just adding up points. It's never that you start with 100 and then they start deducting points for every mistake that you make. And then basically they grade and see what was the highest number of points that somebody got. Okay, that's probably gonna be the A. And then from there, they figure out what's the B, what's the C, what's the D. You'll probably hear a lot about law school and the curve. I don't even have a complete grasp of it right now, so I'm not even going to comment on that. Maybe I'll make another video once I do get my grades back and have a better understanding of how the curve affected me or whatever. I'll tell you all about it later on. I don't have a great understanding of the curve yet either. All I know is that for the most part, it is there to help you, but it can hurt you in certain cases. Who knows what's going to happen this semester? All I know is that that's how exams are mostly graded in most of my classes. It's a lot of essays. There are some multiple choice questions on some of my exams, but most of them are going to be essays. And those are the practice exams that I take. I take essays because I think that multiple choice can sometimes really be hit or miss. A lot of the times, the multiple choice questions here, at least for my professors, are choose the best answer. So you will find that you will look at a question and you'll be like, and this is actually very similar to the LSAT as well. You'll look at the question, it'll say choose the best answer, and you look at all the answers and you're like, well, that could work. That could also work. That also could work. And now you've looked at 4 answers that all seem right. All they want you to do is choose the best answer. So it's really just about process of elimination. And then from there, you just got kind of like a 50-50 chance of getting the right answer. So I'm dedicating all of my time in terms of practice exams to doing practice essays. And what I'll do is me and my classmate that y'all saw in my last video, we will either FaceTime each other or go to the library and take a practice exam in whatever subject we feel like we want to study that week or that day, whatever. And we will just sit down and usually dedicate it'll be about like a 45-minute to an hour long exam. And this is just one question, okay? So when I say exam, I only mean one exam essay. It's not a whole 4-hour, we're not sitting down and doing a whole 4-hour exam, 2 essays back to back, like nothing like that. It's just, we'll do one essay exam question, we'll do it separately, and then afterwards we'll either talk about it or we will, kind of give ourselves some time and review the answers ourselves, and then ask each other questions like, did you understand why this answer said this, or whatever. Most of the time we'll get our practice exams either from the outline banks. They'll have like previous questions from former, the 2Ls and 3Ls put previous questions from former years on there, or we have Quimby. So if you do buy one of those kind of study sites like Quimby, some of the textbooks come with supplemental websites that allow you to assess yourself and take quizzes and things like that. We will go on those websites and they will provide practice exam essays as well. And sometimes the professors will provide them for you. So my civil procedure professor provided us with multiple choice questions and former exam essays that he used, and then provided us with the answers. Sometimes the professor will do it, and I think that is really, really, really helpful, because something you've probably already heard as well is that you are taking the exam of your professor, not just of torts in general, not just of civil procedure in general. You are taking the exam of your professor, and you want to make sure that the way that you answer the question is the way the professor wants you to answer the question. I think that's probably one of the most helpful pieces of advice that I ever received when I got here, because it made me realize that you could be thinking that you're doing all the right things, but you could be spending your time and you're putting your attention and focus in the wrong areas, like trying to understand torts as a whole and using the internet to find all this information, when really all you had to do was just go and talk to your professor and ask them what they wanted on the exam. Like literally, what do you want me to say for this question on the exam? And most of the time they will tell you. Maybe not word for word, but they will pretty much tell you how they want you to approach an exam question. So I think it's very, very helpful. The next are quizzes. I'm not going to go too much into the quizzes. Again, I just use things like Quimby, or I use the websites that are paired with the textbooks that my professors provide to us. It really quizzes you on just like shorter hypothetical situations than one big long essay question. And that has been super helpful as well, just in case you're not always in the mindset to do one long essay, all right? I'm not doing one long essay every single day, but sometimes you just want to do some drilling, and very similar to the LSAT, you just drill certain concepts. You're just doing logical reasoning questions. You might not be doing a whole section, you might not be doing a whole exam, but you're just doing some questions, and then, okay, let me see what I got on that, let me go back, do I understand this concept? Is this something I need to keep studying? Do I need to add anything to my outline? So it's really, really helpful in terms of just doing something short and quick, especially when you don't really have, when your focus isn't all there at the moment, right? It allows you to kind of do something still very helpful and useful, but in a shorter amount of time if your attention span is kind of running a little low. Then lastly, study groups. And this is something that you probably already heard about as well as a part of the law school experience, are study groups. Obviously, those look a little different now because of COVID, and because, people aren't necessarily wanting to meet up in someone's house and study, but I have been doing kind of like, maybe not study groups, but study partnerships for a lot of my classes. For contracts, I have a classmate that I study with who literally lives down the hall from me in my apartment, and we just go over some problems together. We'll talk about certain concepts, do certain hypothetical situations together, do quizzes together, and maybe sometimes practice exam essays. And that's kind of like the study partnership. And then for my torts class, I have a study group, and we'll just meet up on Zoom, because that way we can have a lot of us in the class or in the study group at once, and not have to worry about, are we going to be able to find a place where we can all social distance. And we'll just meet up maybe once, twice a week. Now it's been a little more frequent as the exam is approaching, but we'll meet up and we'll literally just go through cases together. My textbook for torts is a case book, so it's a little bit different than other classes, and we will literally just go through the case book together. We will just go through each case. Hey, okay, did you get this from this case? What did you understand about this? Talking about what the professor said in class that day on that specific case. We'll go through our notes together as well. So it's kind of like looking at the cases and then our notes side by side from that day in class. And that just makes sure that we are, every week just taking time to review and go back into that chapter. And really, hopefully by the end, before the exam, we will have covered all the chapters in the textbook that will at least be relevant for our exam. Studying group has been a great way to meet people, a great way to make friends and build relationships with people, because again, in this hybrid online environment, it's kind of been difficult to foster those relationships. Like, how do you get to know somebody when you really only get to see them for an hour and a half in class, and in class you're not talking? And then there are some people that I haven't even met in my section that I have classes with, because you can only have 20 to 30 people in the classroom at once. So it's a very unique experience. It's a very unique way of doing all of this, study groups and practice exams and all that. But it has been doable. It's still feasible. Law school is not obsolete just because it's online or hybrid now. Law school is very much so alive. I think if anything, this has taught us that law school can be taught from home. Like, you don't need to be in the classroom. I can still be productive from home. I can still learn from home. I can still work from home. My life isn't over. I'm very excited to see how well I can do on these exams. Obviously a little nervous, but I won't say that I'm as anxious as I thought I was going to be, because I know that I really have been putting in the time and the work to make sure that I maximize just how well I could do on these exams. Who knows how the heck I'm going to do, but I do think that with my efforts, I've been maximizing my potential to do well in the exams, and so that makes me excited. That has been my approach. That has been what I've been doing for the past week and a half, especially because obviously as time goes on, you start implementing more and more of those tools. Earlier on I was just outlining, or I was just doing a study group, and then kind of working in the practice exams and the quizzing and the drilling. So all of that just kind of molded into the 4 tools that are in my tool bag right now for studying for these exams. Again, not an advice video, just me sharing my experience, and I can't wait to share with y'all afterwards when I can finally say that I am done, when I can finally just be like, it's over with, first semester in the books, and I can just focus on applying to jobs, Christmas, being with my family. Thank you all so much for watching this video if you made it all the way to the end. I hope you found it interesting. Actually, I really hope that you found it interesting to see how, what was my approach to doing this, because it's a lot of information, it's a lot of content, and it's a lot of it is driven by yourself. Like, you learning the material, a lot of it is self-motivated work. So I think it's really interesting, for me at least, how other people motivate themselves and how they try to master things. This is just my approach to trying to be good at my first semester of law school. So, I will see you all in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, hit it with that thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumbs it down for exams, because boo exams. Comment down below if you would like me to do a video in the future talking about the professors at Emory, or just law school professors in general. If you want to see this next week's video with me vlogging about finals, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Alright, because we're on that schedule, we're here, taking it all one day at a time, and I want you all to be a part of the journey with me. So thank you so much, and I will see you guys next week.